first started out really getting interested in sustainability when I was studying paleontology, which is all about dinosaurs and fossils and evolution, and all of that is sort of really punctuated by massive climate events and huge extinctions, and it's an important part of that kind of study, and it kind of brought me into learning about understanding past climate to understand what's going to happen in the future. So I started doing my PhD in climate research, which was looking at trying to understand what the last 100 years of ocean chemistry have looked like in coastal ecosystems. And I really enjoyed kind of developing ways to get new data, but I kind of felt like I wanted to do something that was a bit more applied and where I felt like I was making a really big difference, like a tangible difference. And so that's kind of how I got into this sort of sustainability role. Yeah. The role at St Antony's really appealed to me because as I was coming out my PhD, I wanted to do something where I felt I could make a tangible difference and learn about and sort of build my skill set up for tackling sustainability. And St Antony's appealed to me in particular because I've got a long experience in universities. I've spent the last 10 years in kind of academia, and I've also done a lot of work in equality and diversity at universities as well, and sort of policy writing. And so it seemed like a familiar environment to me that universities, a lot of them have similar problems when it comes to sustainability, so I knew I'd be able to apply both my climate expertise and experience in universities. And St Antony's benefits from the fact that before I arrived, they already have made a baseline assessment of their emissions, and they have an action plan in place that's been agreed by the management and governing body. So there's already kind of a drive to make changes at Antony's, but the big thing that was holding them back was time and sort of people hours. And so that's why St Antony's have chosen to make a dedicated role, is because that leaves someone like me, to really speed up the time that it's taking to make these changes. The post is fixed term for 2 years, but in the first year, the big focus is going to be on creating an emissions dashboard, so that our emissions and the changes that hopefully will bring them down will be public, so people can see the progress that we're making. And then also audits of and assessments of the energy use around the college, so that we can see where we can make improvements. And all this work will lead to us being able to set a clear date for net zero carbon emissions and biodiversity net gain, which are really important to support both the environment, but also the university's goals, which is 2035 for both net zero and biodiversity net gain. The three main headings in our emissions reduction plan are energy usage, food, and travel. And those are quite common kind of areas to target for colleges and universities in the UK. For us, our energy usage takes up about 25% of our emissions. So that will look like improving insulation around college, replacing windows, doing assessments to find where we can make energy use more efficient. Eventually we will also set a date to cut off gas completely from the college. So that will be replacing heating with electrical sources of heating, like air source heat pumps, for example. And then we're looking at food. We have a canteen for common table, we have high table, and then we also have conferencing and events. And the main source of emissions for food comes from things like red meats, and then other meats and dairy also contribute to emissions because they have high land use in terms of their production. Red meat in particular is the highest. So we'll be looking to make changes to menu to provide more plant-based options. There'll still be meat available, but where we can, we'll be reducing the most carbon-intensive meats and providing lower emissions per plate for everyone in the college. And right now also our high table already is vegetarian by default, and catering probably will start looking a bit more like that as well, which because we have more control over that. And then finally, looking at things like travel. This is a problem that's faced by a lot of universities, that flights do cause significant emissions, and St Antony's is an international college. Being international is very important to the college, and spreading knowledge worldwide is very important, and for researchers and early career researchers, it's very important to travel to conferences, to make connections and share research. So it's looking at how, at the moment the college is looking at how we may change our policies to support more sustainable travel, and flights probably is a discussion that's going to happen way further down the line, but at first we'll probably look at more available sustainable travel grants and policies. So bike schemes for staff so they can do salary sacrifice, and bike training so that people can feel more comfortable with cycling, electrical vehicle points. So ways that we can reduce the carbon impact of commuting and travelling will be an important point the college will be discussing. So in terms of governing St Antony's sustainability response and changes, at the moment we have me, the Environmental Sustainability Officer, who feeds back to the bursar and domestic bursar. So that's a fairly direct way for us to change how the college operates, and we'll be dealing with a lot of kind of physical changes in the college. And then we also have the Green Impact team who work with it's not run by the university, but the Green Impact scheme basically is an assessment for colleges and universities to show what sustainability actions they're taking already. You can plan projects, and this is somewhere where students and staff can get involved. They can help with, Nicole Wyatt currently runs the Green Impact team, and she's always planning projects that people can get involved in. I think the next best time to get involved will probably be in Nicholas term, because I think that's when all the new students are arriving. There'll be a lot of ideas running for projects, but we're always keen to hear people's ideas for projects. I'm also on the Green Impact team, so I'm there to help with the parts of the assessments that are to do with the physical makeup of the buildings, the energy assessments and stuff. And then there's also through the GCR, there's the Student Committee, Sustainability Committee. So that's something you could join as well if you're a student, to share ideas about making sustainable changes in St Antony's. And you also have in the GCR a Sustainability Officer, which is Josephina. So there are many ways as staff and students can get involved, but also I'm always happy to hear anyone's ideas, and feel free to send me an email if you have any questions or queries or expertise to share, because there'll be hopefully a lot of changes happening at St Antony's.